I am Robin Handy, and I'm pleased to interview Hal Shurtleff, the Regional Director of the John Birch Society. He has come to Buffalo to provide an introduction of Agenda 21, a United Nations global initiative. Good evening, Hal.
Well, good evening. Thanks for bringing me way out here from Boston.
All right. Well, Hal, before we get to the topic, how did you and your family fare through Hurricane Sandy?
Oh, we had a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, but we did okay. Yeah, we did
Outstanding.
okay right here in Boston. Yeah.
Well, we're all glad you made it to Buffalo safely. Could you elaborate on what Agenda 21 is and how it will impact the United States?
How much time do we have? About 5 hours? Right. Well, Agenda 21 is a plan that came out of a conference back in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, the UN conference on the environment. And a number of things came out of this conference, including a 1,000+ page document called Agenda 21. This is a synopsis. This isn't the whole thing. I'm not strong enough to carry the whole thing. This came out a year afterwards, sort of crib notes on Agenda 21 by and Agenda 21 supporters. And what the editor of this, by the way, I recommend you get this. It's available on Amazon for very short, short money. David Sittarts said that implementation of Agenda 21 will be have the most profound impact on the on the planet, unlike anything ever done before. And all decisions will be made collectively, and we'll have this in mind, Agenda 21 in mind. Pretty broad. Now, when this first came out, we were in the John Birch Society. We were trying to expose this, and people thought, "Gee, we always thought you were crazy. Now you're proving it. You're telling us that they're going to be able to have so much control, reach down right into our own neighborhoods." This is yes, exactly. Now, Agenda 21 is not a treaty. It is not law. It came out of this conference. George Bush signed it, and basically what he said is that our federal government will implement this Agenda 21. Now, that was 92. He left office, and Bill Clinton became president in 93. Bill Clinton established the Presidential Office on Sustainability, and he gave the American Planning Association $1 million plus contract to actually take Agenda 21 and come up with something to implement it around the country. It was called Sustaining Towards a Sustainable America. You can find that online. Go do a little search online, and you can PDF it. It is one of the most enormous power grabs by reading this. In fact, there are 8 major goals out of this sustainable America. One of them is population stabilization. Now, I looked at my Constitution pretty hard, and I've not found any reference to that. That's not a duty of the federal government. But that's just the beginning. Now, Chapter 28 deals with how to implement it locally, how to get local towns and cities. Now, keep in mind, Congress never passed this. It was never a treaty. But all the different federal entities, federal government entities, OSHA, EPA, you name it, will implement the policies set down in Agenda 21 in this 1,000+ page document. And then towns and cities and states will all do their part as well to promote it. Now, here in New York, you have something called Sustainable New York. And also something called i.c.l.e.i, the i.c.l.e.i. And i.c.l.e.i stands for the International Council for Local Environmental Initiative. This was an entity founded at the UN in 1990, 2 years before Rio. And the folks that started this pretty much wrote the Agenda 21. It had to have come from the minds of people who were socialists, who really despised limited government and private property. And it's not just about land, it's about a total remaking of the way humans live. A chapter on even on relationships between males and females. You see, education, strongly, or they urge cradle-to-grave education on being sustainable. In fact, the term sustainable came out of an earlier conference, but a lot of folks today, they don't hear the term Agenda 21 when the town and cities are implementing it. They call it smart growth. They call it sustainable development. Everything that sounds nice, but what it really is. In fact, one of the supporters of Agenda 21 that actually was a Clinton advisor, G. Gary Lawrence, he addressed a group in England in 1996, and he said, in so many words, he said that there are people in the United States, people around the world in the United States, for example, who believe in this one world conspiracy theory and a UN takeover of the United States. And he said that these folks will work against us, so we have to change the terms. We can't use Agenda 21. We can't say it's coming from the UN. We have to say smart growth or development all these other buzzwords. But now the buzzwords have become controversial, so they're even changing them again. So the term smart growth and sustainable development, to me, is a bingo. I know what's going on here. And most people have no idea, and I would say most people who are implementing this probably think they're saving the world. Okay? And like here in New York, I mentioned i.c.l.e.i. There are probably about 60 towns and cities and counties in New York State that belong to this. Now, some people refer to it as an NGO, non-government organization, but it is a government-to-government organization. It is not a part of the UN. It's sort of like a UN started. They started at the UN, but it's not an official arm of the UN. But their job was to implement Agenda 21 at the local level, city, town, county, and they've got about 1,200 members around the world. Half of them are in the United States. Now, why is all the focus on the United States? Well, it's a very simple reason. Maurice Strong, the granddaddy of Agenda 21, said at this Rio conference in '92 that the biggest threat in the world, it's not fanatical Muslims, it's not nuclear missiles pointing at us, what have you, it's the American middle class. So most people watching this video probably fit that description, or would like to fit that description, you see. And why is the American middle class such a threat to these folks who want to give us Agenda 21? Single-family homes, driving automobiles, using high meat consumption, air condition, using oil heat or gas heat, et cetera, et cetera. So our living styles are not sustainable. So the idea is to change these dramatically. And another manifestation of Agenda 21, I just drove up here and I saw these wind turbines. Now, where is money coming from to build this ancient technology, right? This notion that the CO2 is causing all kinds of trouble and global warming will all be dead in a couple of generations if we don't do something now. Well, I've actually had a chance to meet scientists from around the world at various conferences. To a person, there is no man-made global warming. And even if there were, we could shut our industry off tomorrow and it would have no impact whatsoever. Why? China, communist China, India, Brazil, and other these nations, they're putting on a power plant every other day, coming online, and they're using coal and oil. In fact, the United States has decreased its usage of energy about 1.5% in the last 5 to 10 years. On the other hand, China has increased it 50 to 100% using coal and oil. So we can use folks who think you're saving the planet by recycling, what have you, all well and good, but you're not going to save the planet. And there isn't any man-made global warming to begin with. But it's the Agenda 21, they'll give guidelines, like i.c.l.e.i. You join i.c.l.e.i, they'll set up guidelines. This is 50% of your energy that your town will be using will be alternative energies. When they say alternative, they're usually wind energy and solar panels. Those are the two. Heavily subsidized, and most of them are going bankrupt as we speak. Dozens of these companies have gone bankrupt. So, and it's not just the i.c.l.e.i, it's also certain land trusts, a lot of non-government organizations, the Nature Conservancy. You have regional planning commissions all over the country. You probably have a whole batch in New York. All of these folks are working with the Agenda 21 folks to implement it locally. And the average person has no idea.
Well, thank you, Hal. And now, the John Birch Society has been around quite a bit of time.
Since 1958.
And I think monitoring the United Nations has been a considerable effort of it.
Well, our early slogan was, get us out of the United Nations and get the United Nations out of the United States. And we believe that even more strongly today. In fact, we have a special issue of a magazine, United Nations on the Brink of Becoming World Government. It just came out recently. This is early November of 2012. And we have a little map of this benign organization. Here's a map. I don't know if you can zoom in or not. It's something I'm going to put on my PowerPoint. Here are UN entities pretty much all over the world. They're even going to be monitoring our elections. The very notion that this gang of unelected bureaucrats, mostly socialists, communists, anti-Americans, are going to monitor our elections, it shows you what a fraud the UN is. So, other than that, they're a fine group. Yeah.
Well, Hal, you laid a lot of information on us, and you mentioned the middle class. Could you provide some advice how the concerned citizen could obtain honest and truthful news?
Well, there's a lot of sources out there. You're not going to find them on your local television set, your local news source, unfortunately, or your daily paper. I recommend going to jbs.org, where you can get our news feeds. The New American Magazine, which is, we publish it twice a month. We have an online version as well. And I know there's liberty groups in this part of the country, this part of the state, that I recommend. Free.
Lifelong Project.
That's it. Well, the folks who are sponsoring this event, that would be a good source of information. And we have a few Facebook pages with a lot of up-to-date information. One of them deals with this issue. It's called Choose Freedom, Stop Agenda 21. And there's one that I administer. It's called Stop UN Agenda 21, Stop i.c.l.e.i. So these are two places you can go to get updated information. And what to do about it? Well, I'd suggest give us a call. You can call me directly. If I can give my phone number, it's 857-498-1309. And I'd be happy to put you in touch with activists in your area. In fact, a lot of good things have been coming out of this battle. Numerous states, towns and cities and counties, even here in New York, have said no to Agenda 21. Westchester County, not exactly your Bible Belt region by any stretch, have announced that they have left i.c.l.e.i. as of January 1st of 2013. And many people around in Schenectady County, we had some members of our organization approached some of the county officials, and they were listening. And in fact, there's one of our members that lives in a town. He's a town official, and he said basically if they don't get out of i.c.l.e.i., we're going to sue them as a town, sue the county for becoming a member of this. But I suggest that you get the information. I have I can show you some things that I recommend that you can get in PDF format or get through me. Or it's a little reprint called on Agenda 21, written by a man who was actually at the meeting in 1992, William Jasper. These you get in PDF format. Get this information in front of your selectmen, your your councilor, your mayor, your town manager, your planning board members. Because a lot of these folks really have no idea what they're doing. They think they're saving the planet. They think they're, or in some cases, they're getting nice big fat checks from the federal and state governments to implement these policies, realizing that hey, this is a good thing for the town. I'm getting the bacon, you see. But you might bring the bacon, which is really wrong because it's all tax money, and we're in a recession. It's wrong to begin with. But along with the money comes restrictions. It's not strings, but I call them chains. These towns will set up new zoning laws. They'll set up these things called smart growth areas. They'll set up policies that won't have anything to do with fighting global, the global warming numbers. It doesn't exist, but it has a lot to do with control, raising the property taxes, and not only that, but your public education will be enamored or immersed in this false science and bad science. So it's very comprehensive. They actually have things called smart meters that they'll install in your home. You're thinking, well, I'm saving money, I'm saving the planet. They're actually doing energy audits every day. And if they discover that you're using a little bit more electricity than your neighbor, then you might get a visit, you see. So
Agenda 21 appears to be really a nonpartisan issue.
Well, it was a Republican that signed it into, not law, but approved it. Democrats are behind it as well. There's a lot of money involved here, too. There's so many of these green companies that popped up because of the subsidies. So you've got people in both parties that are pushing this. Some of them, again, doing it because they think they're saving the world. Others doing it because economically motivated. There are some businesses that, hey, I'll put this banner on my side of my truck that I'm going green. I need to get the contract. I need to get the job, right? I don't think they're disciples of Al Gore. But I spoke to a builders association in Bradford County, Pennsylvania, not too far from here. And one of the folks with the Pennsylvania builders said, Hal, in 2007, we had 13,000 members. We've lost half of our membership base in 5 years. So these folks, they better start using their resources to help fight this and not implement it or go along to get along. The bottled water companies, bottled water is not sustainable. Did you know that? According to Agenda 21. Because it comes in plastic. Then you have to ship it and you have to burn gasoline and all these terrible things. And if you get a bottle of water, it's probably going to say, go green, be green, recycle. They banned the sale of bottled water in Concord, Massachusetts just recently. And that's the first town in the country. A lot of universities, I think, have done this as well. So they banned the light bulbs, you know, those incandescent light bulbs. Congress banned them by 2014. You'll no longer be able to manufacture them. And these companies are more than happy to close shop and send it over to China, right? So you have these very bad policies that are hurting us financially as a result of Agenda 21. That's just a few things that are part of Agenda 21.
Well, we really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You turned us on to quite a bit of information, some good sources, and
I recommend, if you're watching this, go to your town's website. Look at the minutes of your selectmen's meetings, the planning board, and look at the terminology. See if you see things like sustainable development or smart growth areas, or you see the word environment. See if there's anything about global warming in there. You know, and you thought, oh, then give me a call, because then we'll come into town and help expose us. Yeah, that's what we've been doing around the country.
outstanding. Well, Al, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we look forward to having you back.
Glad to be back.